Hi everyone, my name is Agnes. I'm from Gaia's Global Digital Communications team, and I'm here today with our delegates from Malaysia. She is Mages from Sahabat Alam Malaysia and Consumers Association of Penang, and SiPeng from C4 Center Malaysia. Hi everyone, thank you for being here.
Hello, Agnes.
Hi, Agnes.
Today I wanted to talk about waste trade specifically, and talk about how this is affecting our communities, our local communities, our marine life, and also our waste management in our own countries. So, can you tell me a specific story in Malaysia where you're experiencing this?
So I come from a state in Malaysia called Selangor, and Selangor is actually the location where our main port is located, which is Port Klang. So most of the imported waste all arrives, and it will be from Selangor that it will move out to other places. So the communities that are living near the port, which is Newsroom, Kuala Langat, this whole area, are actually really directly impacted when there's so much influx of imported waste coming into the country, because that will be the first point where it will be managed, either processed or recycled. We're not sure if every containers really get recycled properly. So, but they are the immediate location that is affected.
How about
Yes, yes. So in 2018 and also 2019, when the government started taking actions in terms of the illegal waste dumping or illegal waste trade and the smuggling, what happened was most of the actions were taken in Selangor, as mentioned by SiPeng, and these waste recyclers, and most of them were illegal waste recyclers, starting to start up businesses up north. So where we come from in Penang, so there were a few waste recycling plants that suddenly mushroomed, or there were some which opened up in Sungai Petani, Kedah, which was also another town near Penang, and in Perak. So those were more remote areas or some idle industrial zones where they had started up all these waste recycling plants. And what happened was, you know, communities were getting sick. They were breathing in foul air with like emissions of really like plastic burning, and also the dumping also happened near rivers. So our soil, our water, and our air was getting polluted from all this waste dumping, because not all the waste that was being brought in was supposedly for recycling, but not all can be recycled because of the low value contents of the waste, and most of it was dumped.
Yes. So from an enforcement perspective, right, it is really true, like the term that they use, it is like the government agencies is playing a whack-a-mole situation, because the illegal facilities move very fast. The moment they know that, because the Selangor government did toughen the stance and enforcement, put in more people to really monitor the illegal operations that are opening up. But like what Magis mentioned, they flee. It's much easier for them to pack up and then they start moving out elsewhere. But it's harder for the government to suddenly then transfer, our officers from one state to another to then start catching them there. So it's really playing a whack-a-mole at the moment.
Do we know which foreign country is exporting their plastic illegal waste to our countries?
If it's illegal, we're not sure, because it won't be reported through the Comtrade mechanism. So the only way that we know at the moment are the legally imported waste, because those are reported on Comtrade. So it's again the usual suspects of Japan, EU countries like Germany. I can't remember the rest yet, but
Netherlands. Yeah, and what we are also seeing now, it's there's the hidden plastic waste.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of electronic waste coming in, but then electronic waste is not just electronics; it's got plastic content and also textile waste. Yeah, that is also coming in, and refuse derived fuel, sort of. Yeah, they were supposedly. So what is happening? Some of these illegal recyclers, they remove the precious metals out and then they shred all this plastic waste, and that is also being dumped in agriculture areas near communities, and some of it just gets burnt because they are flammable. Yeah, and some of these fires go on for many days. Yeah, there was this one incident a few years ago where this tire tire waste is also being brought in, and it is mostly from Australia. And it was supposedly to go into the cement kilns for co-processing,
Right.
but that place got burned for 4 or 5 days. You remember, you see how the toxic fumes are engulfing communities, yeah, and they are getting sick.
Right. So you mentioned about this being hidden plastic waste. So how important it is to have regulation or practices that is not just local, but is more international. So we do have a Basel agreement, and many people are talking about that if we're talking about waste trade. But how is it connected, and how is it important to still have waste trade text in the plastics treaty negotiations?
Yeah, so therefore, I think there were already a few side events that mentioned about this, right? It is true that there is Basel that controls the transboundary movement of waste, and that's where the loop is, which is the category of waste in Basel currently is not full enough to cover all types of plastic waste, which is the hidden plastics that Magis mentioned earlier on, in textile, in tires, in electron. Okay, but there is going to be an e-waste amendment onto Basel already, which we are fully supportive of, but really it's not comprehensive enough. So we are looking at the plastic treaty as a enhancement capacity to Basel. Yeah.
So that is in terms of the trade, but then in terms of prevention,
Right.
that should be the first one. Yeah, it's not. We don't want to trade waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we in the Southeast Asia region, including Malaysia, are being like a dumping ground. So the developed countries should have their facilities. They should have their resources to handle their own waste. Yeah, whether it's hazardous waste or your plastic waste, you should be able to handle. Why do you have to dump in really countries that lack resources and can't even manage our own domestic waste? Yeah, so this is really an injustice for our communities, and also burdening our environment and health of the communities.
Yeah, so just to add on about Basel, Basel does have articles, I think it's Article 4, that actually a lot of countries ignore because it's not legally binding, the language in Article 4 that talks about minimization, which is the most important part in actually waste management, isn't it? You need to minimize so that you could then manage the waste within your own national capacity. But if you consume so much and you don't focus on the minimization part, then you will obviously have waste, and that is outside of your capacity to, then you might need to then resort to exporting. So that's why we are hoping that the Global Plastic Treaty will have stronger legally binding language around the minimization part, which Basel doesn't have. So to say that Basel is good enough to manage waste section in this treaty is not
Very wrong.
it's not the right.
Yeah, and also as Gaia always says, you have to tackle the problem from the source.
Exactly.
So if you keep on producing more and more plastics, yeah, you will also end up with more pollution, and this is actually toxic.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about circular economy, if you want a non-toxic circular economy, you have to remove all these chemicals of concern, toxic chemicals out of the production of plastics. But first of all, you need to reduce production of plastics, because it's like plastic just is carbon and chemicals. You have fossil fuel extraction, and that extraction is also harming communities in the fence line, yeah, because of the emissions and the releases from those activities.
So I think in what I'm getting the impression is that waste trade, waste colonialism, these are all rooted back to plastic reduction and the over consumerism that's happening. So yeah, I also want to talk about, since you are both from Malaysia, we have a Malaysian delegate here. What are our hopes for the Malaysian delegate to move forward or promote here in the plastics treaty negotiations?
So far, what we have been seeing is like Malaysia is not really going for a stronger treaty. Some of the ambition is like, it's a very weak ambition, because they are saying, the tax that they are trying to negotiate is like, we want shall. So if you use the word shall, it means mandatory actions will have to be taken.
Right.
But Malaysia is like saying it's encouraged to. Depending on the national circumstances and nationalities. So we have been in talks with the delegates. even prior to coming to the INC. And so they keep on mentioning, oh, it has to be national plans. We do also have some action plans, but that is not enough. We are saying it's just national plans won't work, because the plastic crisis is a global crisis. You need to have a global plastics treaty which is strong, so that and then you transpose to our local laws. Yeah. So this is what we want our Malaysian government to do: be stronger in terms of our negotiations, and also in the Southeast Asia region. Yeah, because
Yeah.
most of us are having the same issue.
So yeah, in terms of our Malaysia delegations and also national position in this entire treaty, we understand their concern and why they wish for more voluntary measures, like the encourage to and within national capacity language that they're using. I think it's really because we really don't have we don't the country does not know yet whether there will be any access to finance. And for a developing country, that is really crucial for us. So if there are strong provisions under Article 11 under financial mechanism in this treaty, I hope that our country delegates will take that as a signal that they can then take stronger positions on the other areas and ensure they do mandatory measures. I really think that is the moving needle for our country delegation, which I hope if there are strong provisions on finance, we're able to then maybe convince them to then change. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Giving you all the energy that we would be needing to finish this negotiation strong. Thank you for joining us.